station, your music, your choice, your community, your Asian Sound Radio Network.
This is Asian Sound Radio, DBK and Insa, and our in-house philosopher is unfortunately...
He's not here.
Well, he's thinking deep thoughts in a dark forest about whether trees exist or not, if he can see them or not.
No, he has to go to a cave. A true philosopher has to hide in a cave for like 10 years and then learn the secrets of life.
Bro, it's 15 seconds in and we're going into the darkness, the abyss that is the DBK and Insa Hack Show. And today we are going to be exploring the contrast between the reaction of France and Germany to terrorism.
Yeah.
You know, what, bro, you're making that face like this is not the most savoury topic in the world. What were you expecting? Pokemon Go or something?
Yeah, you kind of surprised me there. I thought I was expecting something, I don't know.
A bit more fluffy.
Yeah, a bit more fluffy with nice pink colours.
Right, yeah. Well, actually, yeah, I was only kidding. Right, today's show is about Pokemon Go. Did you catch Pikachu or maybe Mewtwo?
No, I'm afraid not. I live in the real world. That's for people who have no lives whatsoever.
Or under the age of 18, in their defence.
Or in their minds are under the age of 18.
Yeah.
There was an article with some taxi firm is now offering rides around town to find Pokemon Go for the measly £20 an hour.
That it?
Is that's all?
Pikachu's got a big price tag.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that expensive.
Yeah, it's an Asian taxi service, by the way.
Meaning what exactly, Insa?
I'm just interjecting that point there.
DBK and Insa Hack saying racially questionable statements. Yeah, no, today we normally talk about one topic seriously, and then Insa talks about one topic seriously.
Yeah.
And then Liam tells us we're both idiots and then goes home. No, today it's a there's been so many horrible things in the news.
That's why I don't like watching the news on a regular basis.
Well, bro, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it.
But it can affect people's minds, their mentalities, their moods, their emotions.
Ooh.
And if you constantly think about negative things all the time, it does affect how you interact with the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, this is a very positive interpretation because I think Germany is one of the most progressive countries in the world. Yeah. It's just a lot of political thinkers think that all nation states are fundamentally immoral because they're power structures. That's an interesting debate for another time. But while we have a pecking order, I think Norway is pretty obviously near the top, and Germany's not far off there.
So, okay, tell me then, what's Germany?
No, let's do a proper introduction first. Right, this is DBK and Insa. If you want to email us, dbk@asiansoundradio.com. If you want to phone us, 0161 288 2000. If you want to phone Insa personally, 077. I'm joking. Right, and yeah, just let us know your thoughts, your feelings. If you're feeling, how many Pokemons have you caught? Let us know, because we're gonna write down everything you mentioned about Pokemon. We're gonna write it down, then we're gonna scrunch it up and throw it in the bin and carry on with the show.
Did you hear 7 million people around the world are chasing Pokemon Go?
I think you're being a bit of a Philistine.
Me?
Not to be confused with a Palestine. Because, bro, I mean, listen, people play computer games. This is a computer game that is of the genre of augmented reality.
Right. I think I'm just getting older. When you get older and a bit more miserable and critical of life and of the younger generation. But it's not just younger people. People my age are chasing Pokemon around. And I'm like, get a life, do something, go and... I was going to say something about I'll leave another time. Go and have some
fun. In the same hour that the Azanos played.
No way.
I was going to say, bro, if these guys that are really old and they're playing Pokemon, are they hanging around school children's playgrounds or something? That sounds very questionable.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right, anyway, yeah, so I mean, do you know what I've got to mention? I did talk about this guy, I think in Iran, who declared a fatwa against Pokemon.
Oh yeah, you were saying some mullah, that's got nothing better to do.
It's mullah light.
Mullah heavy more like.
Yeah, well, I saw recently this American pastor, and he basically basically explains, I'm going to get a transcript soon, but he's going through this list of, listen, these people are entering another portal into a different dimension. They are effectively summoning Satan, and it's not like he's talking to himself. He's got a whole audience, you know.
Wow.
So as you can selectively pick out the crazy cleric from Iran, but I think to be fair and balanced, you have to also say, well, that's happening in America.
Exactly.
You got these pastors that are talking about these, you know, that basically Pokemon Go is the Antichrist.
I think what's worse in the US, because it's the most powerful nation in the world, is a lot of Christian not extremists, but
fundamentalism.
Fundamentally, is right through the social spectrum, right into the politics, and you know, people in higher office, congressmen and so forth. A lot of people are very much in tune with Christian faith to a very kind of, in a very literal sense.
Yeah.
You know, they actually believe the world is 5,000 years old.
And bro, that's what the biggest criticism I have for people like Sam Harris and, you know, Richard Dawkins. Maybe a little bit less for Richard Dawkins, but the people that are so against Islam, which fair enough, you know, they should express their opinion. There should be a vigorous debate about these things. Islam's existed forever. If you think, if you really truly believe in God, then I think you'd agree that Sam Harris can't take on God. You know, I think God can defend himself. So, you know, Sam Harris is a guy who's very against Islam. Fair enough, let him be. But at least have your microscope. You know, if you're gonna have it that much focused on Islam, at least look a little bit closer to home, because you'll find plenty of crazy there.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is why the Quran and the Bible say, first and foremost, be tolerant over people, over nations, over cultures, over religions, because that way you kind of open up your borders. You make your views sort of permeable to the world. But if you have a rigid point of view, you know, you can be, how can I put it, you can be backed into a corner philosophically and spiritually. Yeah. And a lot of people do. You know, when you see a lot of these clips on YouTube, which I've looked at, a lot of religious people, Muslims and Christians, always get kind of criticized, and they don't know how to respond, because if you follow something too rigidly, you don't kind of recognize the world around you. You know, you close it off, and then when somebody kind of highlights, oh well, this exists, that exists, you don't have an answer for it. You know, I'm not really making myself clear, but what I'm trying to say is that, you know, if you keep an open mind on the whole world, and if you treat everybody the same, there's a line in the Quran that says, treat a Muslim and a non-Muslim as the same. You know, there's no distinction at all.
There's a beautiful French saying that, you know, when you understand everything, you forgive everything. You know, like the imperfections that you see anywhere, here, there, wherever, when you understand all paths of reality, all sort of, you know, we all have our individual sort of hand dealt to us in life. Maybe you're a drug addict, maybe you're not, but how you can't make any judgment about anyone, because or at least you should be forgiving and, like you're saying, tolerant, because unless you know everyone's path, unless you know everything, then you better be a little bit cautious about your judgments. You know, you may not agree on this point, you know, the viewers listening, and please phone in if you want to, you know, 01612882000. We're only going to ignore the phone calls.
But no, we're not. Don't be silly.
No, we're not. No.
You know, whenever somebody criticizes Islam or the Prophet or whatever aspects of our religion, instead of, you know, screaming at the top of their voices and, you know, demanding justice, one should, you know, respond in a very positive and open-minded way. So fair enough, that's your opinion, let's talk about it. You know, and that way you come away with self-respect, and you self-respect for the religion. And any person, and when, you know, there's no saying that if you sit down with your enemy, you know, they will stop becoming your enemy, because they have to face you and see you as a human being, and they have to talk to you and communicate with you. And that communication is what kind of creates bridges between people.
There was a great president called Abraham Lincoln, and he said something almost exactly the same. He was like reaching out to he was a unionist, and he wanted to sort of end slavery, and on the other side you had people wanting to keep slavery. They said, listen, I want to own people. What's wrong with owning people, right? And he tried to build a bridge and make friends with them, and he was sort of castigated by this woman, and she said, what are you doing? Why are you making friends with these people? And he said, listen, these are my enemies, but when they become my friends, do I not end up destroying my enemy by making them my friend?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he said it more poetically, but anyway, that's the gist of it. This is Asian Sound Radio, DBK and Insa talking more off air than on air. Naughty us. We don't get to see each other as much as we normally do.
I know, it's just, we're both busy working, blah, blah, blah. So this is our little moment to catch up on things.
Yeah, well, we shouldn't say that on air. Our bosses might be listening. So if our bosses are listening, we will be consummate professionals preparing for the show. So do you know what? We are talking about terrorism. Obviously,
you had to pick a light subject.
Yeah, I can't help myself. But having said that, I think Asians just feel like we're in the spotlight to explain away all terrorist phenomena. We gotta be experts on terrorism to explain to everyone. Okay, well, this has happened, but let's look at the complexity behind it and let's look at the underlying mechanisms. So I think it's important that we talk about these things and thrash them out and get them out in the open. So basically, there's been loads of terrorist attacks in Germany and loads of terrorist attacks in France, but when you look a bit closer, which is we are meant to be the truths, it's like the crown that Russell Brand has handed to us unofficially.
I think I know where you're going with this. It's obvious that most of these so-called terrorist attacks are not terrorist related or Islamic terrorist, whatever that means. So that's just a media term, but it just individual.
No, I think they are. Well, in for example, say the guys that just recently killed the priest guy. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they. I don't know the details. Who does? But it sounds like they probably are.
But that's the one-off. The other cases were not. I think you picked the one case that perhaps may be linked to ISIS.
What about Bataclan or the rock concert where loads of French people? I think that also was probably. I don't. Anyway, listen. This is way above. Way. This is. We don't get paid enough to be talking about this stuff. If otherwise, we'd be terror analysts on. So let's just let me put it this way. The German response has been completely different to the French response. The French response. Let's forget about to what degree is it mental illness or not. But basically, the French response from the officials, from the government, is we are a nation at war, and we have to declare a state of emergency. We have to curtail public freedoms and things like this. And in Germany, it's the complete opposite. It's like they're saying, well, their response has been one of calm and a sort of measured response, So basically, I want to read out a transcript of Dr. Peter Ammon, who I think is a German ambassador. Bro, I actually literally sat there and typed it out because it's just an interview on Radio 4. It's an amazing interview, and they call him on and say, well, why is Germany's response different to France's response? France's response is in the same guise as the old school. We're at war with terror. We gotta listen to all your conversations and read all your little smutty messages on Facebook now. And Germany's response is not like that, and so the question is why. And so Dr. Peter Ammon says this: 4 deadly attacks have happened in a week, and the huge difference in the way that the two countries have dealt with it. He explains, one, maybe 2 of the 4 people that have done these atrocities over the past week or so have been mentally ill. And he actually uses these words. It's a story of loneliness and bullying at school, which is an amazing, instead of like, just kill them all sort of attitude.
Yeah.
It's like, let's understand the situation, you know. So he carries on. They are not connected to terror. And in the other two, you know, there could be some background of terrorism. So half the cases, the nature of the attacks are different. And he carries on to explain, maybe it's a German way of dealing with things, but we like to have a look at the background before we give a judgment. You mentioned, so this interviewer prodded him about these guys' AFD comments. I think they're a far-right group, I think. And he basically says, I think it's very important to your listeners for them to know that the debate in Germany is not about the migrants or even Islam. It's a debate about the growing incidence of mental illness among young people. For example, you know, we seem to observe this huge increase, and it's certainly not that the people equate migration with terror. And he carries on to say he thinks it's so important to make that point.
That is amazing that someone is looking from an intellectual kind of perspective, where France is going more from an emotional one. You know,
I don't know if it's emotional. Go on.
I'm just being polite there. You know, it's very extreme kind of reaction to how can I say media baiting, or you know, from a superficial level. If somebody's brown or they have a Muslim background, so automatically it's Islamic terrorism.
Yeah.
We're not looking at the real causes, like say Germany are.
Yeah.
And mental illness, loneliness, alienation. These are problems that a lot of countries face.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just Germany or France. I think it's just as much in Britain as anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like it's how countries deal with these problems.
Yeah.
And Britain, you know, like Germany, I think they deal with them in a very positive way.
Yeah.
You know, they use the carrot with a stick. They use a support kind of network to help people, where countries like France, you know.
I thought for a second you said a caravan on a stick, and I thought, whoa, that's random, man. What are you gonna do with a caravan on a stick? I don't know.
Sorry, was I talking too fast?
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so you know, countries like Britain, and now it seems, because I don't know a lot about how Germany's social services work, but it seems obvious to me that the people in the hierarchy at the top seem to be more kind of understanding of a problem, of a situation. They have to delve deep and find out what's the root cause. And that's the problem here. France is dealing with the symptoms, where Germany is looking at the causes.
Yeah.
It's totally different and an amazing way.
Yeah. So he carries on to say, we have taken in 1.1 million refugees since last year alone, and that's a huge, unprecedented number. And you can imagine what kind of problems this has caused. People had to clear gymnasium schools. I think in Germany they call schools gymnasiums. I don't know why. I think they call schools gymnasiums. And when you want to go bench press and work on your glutes, you go to a school. Yeah. They had to clear out those public spaces to provide provisional accommodation. We spent billions of euros on this problem. Do you know, some parts I use Google to transcribe the thing, but I wanted to get those. It's quite a nice little funny thing the way he talked. And if you go to Germany now, you will find the vast majority of these problems have now been addressed. So the schools are back to normal, and the gymnasiums are used for their proper purposes. These events are not connected because none of the four perpetrators were migrants. And so he's explaining that, okay, these guys might have been second or third generation immigrants, but it has nothing to do with the Syrian influx, because the 4 attacks that have happened, they were people that were born and bred in Germany.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he makes it explicitly clear. So yeah, he basically says that's it. There's no connection. There's no total connection, at least.
You know, that it kind of shows that the difference between France and Germany is that France, as we have seen, is heading more to the right, especially in the political scene. The National Front is the second largest political party in the country, and analysts was recently saying on the BBC debate that France has always been like that since after the Second World War. By the right wing kind of growth was kind of very much embedded in the French people for quite a long time. You know, there was he was a kind of, I'm trying to think of the French Prime Minister beginning with. I was going to say Michelin then, but it's Michel something. I can't remember his name now.
The only French person I know that sounds like, is it Michel Foucault? No, I'm joking. He's a philosopher.
But you know, from the at least for the last 40 years, there has been this shift to the right, and you know, of kind of they don't have the kind of multicultural kind of ethics that Britain does. You know, they don't kind of integrate to a larger extent. You know, the North African communities live there, they're very much isolated. You know, they don't have the kind of like I just said, the multicultural kind of landscape that Britain has, and I think Germany has as well. You know, which and I think that's one of the root causes of the problems in France. You know, so mental illness does come from a kind of a variety of different reasons, but one is alienation.
Do you know, I was going to sort of just take on what you're saying, though, about France's reaction versus Germany's reaction. And here's the thing. Do you know, the French involvement in Syria, because before, what was it? Before the Bataclan incident, I think, I forget who it was. I think it was, I forget which journalist it was, but he made the point that, you know, the parliament, I think it was the parliament, they were doing airstrikes in Syria, you know, and so basically any act of aggression, this journalist was making the point that any act of aggression, whether it's state aggression or terrorist aggression, you know, there's always going to be blood on someone's hand, you know, and
there's always going to be a reaction to anything that you do.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you look at the when it comes to imperialistic adventures, there's always a small select group of countries, according to, you know what I mean? You know, and I think Germany's exempt from that to a large degree. Right, let's go to our next track. This is a track called DBK He Pelebar.
Wow,
I'm sure that's an average song, but let's see. This is Asian Sound Radio, DBK and Insa, and we are doing the truths, where we dissect the news and hopefully bring some things that are obfuscated and not always that obvious into clarity and focus. So basically, we today are talking about the contrast between the French response to terrorism and so-called terrorism, and Germany's response to so-called terrorism, and yeah, basically France has been very authoritarian, clamping down on civil liberties, calling a state of emergency, saying we are in a state of war, and a national war. And it's reminiscent in many ways to what America said after 9/11. You know, you know, so there's a very sort of, you know, you're either with us or you're against us. We're on this war of terror, this kind of thing.
Do you think there's any political kind of connotations to it? Because the government has to compete with the far right, which is the second biggest pie in the country.
Yeah.
So they have to kind of project themselves as just as tough as the far right to win votes.
Well, yeah, there is that, but I was going to give 2 points of views, right?
You can give anything you like.
Yeah, well,
within
you know,
reason.
And these are 2 points of views by people, but obviously the right honourable Noam Chomsky, who I have to mention every single show. Do you know what? I'm hoping it's like Air Miles. If I mention his name every single show, do you reckon he'll come on?
He might come on. You know,
he might run a million miles. Like, get these weirdos away from me. But basically, he explained that after 9/11 happened, every authoritarian regime in the world, every power structure in the world was rubbing their hands. You know, this tragedy of, you know, the murder of 3,000 plus people. There was, you know, he makes the point that people in Russia were sort of rubbing their hands, because then they could say, well, we got to clamp down on these terrorists in Chechnya, therefore we're going to bug all you guys. And, you know, in China they said, well, we got to start clamping down on these dissidents in Western China now, haven't we? Looks like the old state's got a bit more power, you know?
Yeah.
And so what he's saying is, the state gains a lot of power from this. And I think what he's trying to say is a little bit like Batman and what's his face, the Joker, where the Joker makes the point, listen, broski, you only exist because I made you. you know, because he killed Batman's parents, didn't he? So it's basically one situation led to the other. They both needed each other effectively, you know. And I thought you'd like that comic book analogy.
It was good. I was kind of thinking where you were going with it.
They both need each other, you know.
Yeah.
But I think you know, George Bush had more political capital because of Bin Laden, for example.
Definitely, yeah. He was very popular during that period.
Yeah.
Because he was a kind of get up and go get 'em.
Yeah.
You know, no nonsense character.
Yeah. And so any sort of authority figure gets more power when there's a boogeyman, when there's a guy to be scared of, you know?
I think that's the modern kind of policy now with governments.
Yeah. So, I mean, Noam Chomsky said that, didn't he?
Yeah, you know, he's... You know, he did make a point that, you know, a lot of kind of forces out there are kind of focused on the exterior kind of causes, regardless of the internal causes. You know, we have to look at the EU referendum for one. What were the two major factors that were advertised by politicians and media? Immigrants and the EU bureaucrats. Oh, they're responsible for all your problems. It's not government policies for the last 30 years which caused the country to be the state that it's in.
Yeah.
And but this is a more extreme example you're talking about. You know, the government, their role in the world has changed, or their role in their own nations has changed.
Yeah. So, you know, I think the best example is Erdogan in Turkey. You know, you've seen the coup happen, and he's like, well, looks like I'm going to have to make myself a supreme leader. Now everybody bow down and kiss my ring, not the one on my hand. and basically, it's like the guy has fired how many judges and...
I think about 3,000 people.
And teachers and professors. And basically, it's just a purge, and there's a lot of people saying this is just him getting rid of all eliminating all competition, you know. And so this isn't fundamentally, according to some journalists, about protecting democracy. It's fundamentally the deconstruction of democracy. Do you see what I'm saying?
I know exactly. You know, I mean, people can argue and debate that. Because obviously his supporters have their own version of events.
Yeah.
You know, they'll say, well, you know, there was a coup, people were, you know, trying to, you know, usurp the democratically elected government. Yeah. Which is right, you know, they are. And if that coup was, how can I put it, credible, was legit, then he has a point of view.
Yeah.
So it's not, so you can't take one side or the other, you know. It just, and one more thing is the kind of series of events that we're told is from the Western point of view. You know, you have to look at the other side of the world and what other people say.
Yeah. But bro, I mean, do you not think it's a bit transgressive? Like when, alright, there's been this coup, just get all the professors. Like what's you know? Imagine if that happened here. That is so over the top that it goes beyond any sort of measured sort of response.
I'm going to be in there. I'm
you like being on the other side?
Liam. No, I'm going to pretend to be Liam now.
Oh right.
So
okay.
What's your sources of information? And it's like the handful of media, Western media outlets.
Yeah.
So to verify that, you have to look. You have to probably go to Turkey or ask for.
Bro, if you got tickets, I got time.
You know, you have to look at alternative reporting. You know, was 3,000 professors and journalists or whatever, you know, arrested and sacked or whatever. You know, you have to get the facts rather than the coverage. So you know, you kind of have to look at it from a balanced point of view.
Yeah. Let's not do that now. We don't have time.
We can't go to Turkey now. But
but I mean, here's the question. It's not a point of view because me and Insa are basically ex-supermodels and we don't have opinions on things, so it's just a question. But how similar is France's reaction to Erdogan's? In other words, are they fundamentally increasing the power of the state, you know, or are they doing it on legitimate health and safety grounds, that kind of thing. That's a question for you guys to go and research, because me and Insa don't have the time to research these big questions.
But I would say to counter that, Turkey has an attempted coup, where France has had a handful of attacks. There's a big disparity in how you respond to both.
But in principle, I mean, it's their response has been a lot less. So France has had a lot less. It's a less major event. A coup is a massive event. It's a huge event. The terrorism, as awful as it is, it's not as big an event. So Turkey had a really big response, and France had a smaller response. But they were so this is a question I'm asking: are they fundamentally of the same nature? Whereas when you contrast it with Germany, and they're like chilled out and like, okay, let's look at the reasons for this. That was a really bad German accent.
Well, let's ask our listeners 01612882000. Let's get your opinions and views, please.
Yeah, let's get your opinions, and then I want to finish off after these tracks with this opinion, and it's gonna this is the icing on the cake, and it's by Werner Herzog, and he explains how. I'm going to tell you after the songs, but it's basically, he explains how, in America, he explains that UFO sightings have to be nonsense, because when you think about it, they only seem to happen in Texas or Nevada.
Yeah.
Why do they happen only in these parts of America? And I think there's some parallels that we can draw with modern day ideas of terrorism and what he's saying.
That sounds interesting.
Well, I am an interesting gentleman. Let's go to our next track. This is something called it's called
Try Your Best.
Dida Bahir Boldur.
Wow.
Tok. I don't know.
Your station, your music, your choice, your community, your Asian Sound Radio Network.
This is DBK and Insa Haq on Asian Sound Radio, and today we have been talking about terrorism, as of course. What else would we be talking about?
What else would we be talking about? Such a cheerful topic, but
we can't talk about Pokemon Go all the time. But joking aside, I mean, we wanted to talk about the difference in the way that Germany has responded to so-called terrorist attacks, because some of them you don't know what's going on, and France, how they responded to so-called terrorist attacks. And there seems to be a perception in a lot of the media that the French reaction has been much more, we're a nation at war, and we're on a high state of alert, and I'm afraid we're going to have to start bugging everyone and opening everyone's messages, and
stopping and searching people of Middle Eastern kind of persuasion.
And Germany has a totally different sort of take on it, and apparently, according to the ambassador of Germany, I don't know to what, I think to the United Nations or maybe to the UK, but he sort of says that the general consensus in Germany is that this has got nothing to the connection between immigrants and terrorism. There's the people in Germany generally don't make that connection. They see it much more as a mental health issue. And here's the thing, I want to skip to this next bit now, which is basically there's been a knife attack in Japan, where this guy, I think he killed 19 people as a knife attack.
Oh, the old age, he was trying to kill old age pensioners.
Yeah. And so, I mean, basically, the thing that I wanted to push towards now is to ask a really weird question that I think literally no one is really asking, which is, when is terrorism not really terrorism, but actually just mental health issues?
Yeah.
Which you've raised this question before, right? But I mean, do you know, for example, a guy I think it was in Russia, and this woman's chopped off this kid's head, and she's saying Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, and it's very, very obvious that she's not a member of anything, man. You wouldn't give her a membership to a library, man. She's clearly unhinged, and she's got, she's clearly somebody who needs psychiatric help. But under the sort of modern guise, or the modern cultural phenomena of ISIS, they've been so successful at YouTube, effectively at editing videos and putting them on. I don't even know where they post their videos. I don't know. But my point is, this has become like the phrase is used all the time, but a death cult, right? So what happens to the tiny fraction of people that are unhinged, that are, they need help. They have no connection to ISIS. Because, bro, I mean, I've got to stress this. Historically, what we grew up with was like splinter cells.
Yeah.
And there's these hidden networks and these hidden communication lines. What if you're just a sad guy with no connection to anyone? And
I think recently, in the last 6 months, a lot of attacks have been mentally ill people, and I think that a lot of the public are starting to see that anyone with any Muslim background doesn't necessarily have to be an Islamic terrorist, which is kind of what's perpetuated, for the past few years.
Yeah,
and people are starting to look more closely, and I think the media, in some respects, not all respects, but some, they are actually they are kind of backpedaling a little bit. There's some newspapers that straight away, before the guy's even dropped his knife, it's an Islamic terrorist. I think I'm not going to name which paper it was, but it was in this country. And they already had an outline, or he's Islam, and it turned out to be some mentally unhinged person.
The thing about a lot of the so-called Islamic terrorists is just how un-Islamic they are.
Yeah.
Like that. There's that woman in France, and everyone came on camera and said, I can't believe she's a Muslim. She used to drink and smoke, and she sounds like, was it Thelma at Simpsons, with a really sort of high, with the always constantly smoking, and she had a croaky voice. And then that guy, the guy who did the Nice attacks, is basically, this guy was the least Islamic guy you can imagine. The guy who did the Orlando the shootings.
Yeah.
He's like used to, apparently, I don't know if this is true, but some news outlets say that he was not just gay, but prolifically gay.
Yeah, he was trawling gay networks.
Yeah, and he's on these sort of websites. So it strikes you as being so incongruent how un-Islamic the Islamic terrorists are. So my point is just this, right? My question is this, and I'll frame it in this context. Joe, in the 1990s, it was so cool. Every time there was, bowling for Columbine, there's some shooting, and then they would go to Marilyn Manson because they were all listening to Marilyn Manson.
Yeah. And
they were saying, well, clearly, let's listen to his lyrics backwards, forwards, up, down, left, right, all. And Marilyn Manson's like, I don't know. Why are you saying I'm causing this when you guys perpetuate violence? You're bombing, all these different countries, but you're saying I'm a more bigger influence in society. Why don't you look at the president? He's probably a bigger influence. Brilliant retort. But my point is, that was the then thing when crazy people did things. According to Chris Rock, this is how he frames it. It was because they were crazy and they listened to Marilyn Manson, right? But my point is, it was like craziness on a substrate of Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson didn't cause it. They were just they were sort of, that was their
minds were already there. And they needed something to kind of fulfill it, to generate it.
That's just the clothes and the music and the iconography that they used, But they would have done it if, like, Pokemon Go was around, But my point is, fast forward to, like, the Werner Herzog describing this thing that, you only... Werner Herzog says, he's a brilliant German director, by the way, if anyone hasn't heard of him, shame on you. But he was asked, do you believe in aliens? And he says, no, I don't believe in aliens because it seems to me really strange that aliens only seem to appear in Nevada above trailer parks where people have severe alcoholic and drug addiction problems, and like so he was saying something really similar. When there's a substrate of the cult or the iconography of aliens, and you got people that are drug addicted, they've been smoking too much Sensimilia or whatever, then strangely they see aliens, So do you see what I'm saying? That like when you have a cultural phenomena, at least in part, it has some explanatory power to ask the question. At least I got to frame it as a question, because otherwise people will say, "Where's your evidence?" And you're right, I don't have any.
Yeah.
But I got to frame it as a question: to what degree are a lot of these people, extra heavy drug users, and they have symptoms of schizophrenia, or they've been bullied so much and they're loners, they're lone wolves, and they just take the iconography of ISIS and whoever, when in reality there's literally no connection. There's no line of control.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same kind of basic profile of shooters in the US of A. You know, a lot of these kind of school massacres, they're always committed by people who are alienated loners, who have kind of been rejected by the mainstream group in the college or whatever, and they feel left out, or like you say, they're on drugs, or their parents don't love them or whatever, but because they have an outlet, you know, I mean that's the one thing. If people have an opportunity to kind of to express themselves violently, then they 9 times out of 10 they take it, because in America carrying a gun is like carrying a mobile phone. You know, it's the same kind of culture there. It's perfectly normal to buy guns anywhere, and it is a part of people's, not just their psyche, but it's a part of who they are, their character, their personality,
their avatar.
Yeah, so when you explode, when your wife is having an affair with somebody, you know, you're gonna burst in with an M16.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Look at you like that. I'm not married, it's fine. You know, but I'm saying that is the way, that is the expression, that is the form of
You're looking at me like someone's going to shoot me. I'm not self-guilty.
You're not guilty, no. That's you opening your mouth there. I wasn't saying anything.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it's a form of self-expression.
Yeah, that's why in this country when people flip, they usually run around the street in a samurai sword, or, you know, they don't pull out assault rifles and grenades because they're not available, because they're not a part of the culture. You know, but like you say, in France and Germany, you know, EU laws governing weapons are kind of different. In some countries, I think, is it Norway or one that's coming, you can, or is it, no, I think it's Denmark, isn't it? You can buy guns.
Yeah.
You know, I think Germany is kind of similar. They have their gun laws are strict, but you kind of buy them. Where here you can't. Yeah. You can't buy them, but you're very, very strict. Yeah. You have to be working on a farm, and you have to have a shotgun, or you know, very rare you can go out and buy an assault rifle, and somebody will. Well, what do you want it for?
What do farmers use shotguns for?
They're shooting.
Apart from clay pigeons.
No, they're supposed to shoot kind of rodents. Yeah, like badgers or foxes or something. They have some laws, rural laws, that they can keep their fields kind of, you know, their crops clean from vermin. Parasites. Yeah.
And burglars running away from you, apparently. But I mean, bro, do you see the parallel I'm making? Like obviously, we can't say how many or what proportion, but it seems to me like there is a significant portion of terrorist attacks where it's like ISIS is just the modern day equivalent of Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah. Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
I know what you got on your brain. Yeah,
because just imagine that someone coming into like with a dress on. You wouldn't take a terrorist with a dress on very serious.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's why, you know, they said during the ISIS, when the first craze came out, that not a lot of Britons, but like a few hundred Britons went over to fight. Yeah. But excuse me, why did they go? I mean, if you could sit these people down and ask them why you went, it wasn't to free Syria from the government or fight for the Syrian people, because they had some kind of urge to kind of express themselves. Yeah. You know, and they needed to find a context, a battlefield or somewhere, you know, to live out that fantasy role that they was always dreaming about. Yeah. You know, and that's what it is. We have these little fantasies in our minds, and it depends on how far you take them. Yeah. You know, some people, because of mentally ill or drugs or whatever, will take them too far. You know, we all have our self-control, and we keep our lives in kind of a fair balance. And
not me, bro. I can kill 2 boxes of Jaffa cakes tonight. I have no self-control.
General Republic here, not to the fringe elements, shall we say? Yeah. But I understand what he's saying. You know, there are people look for an excuse to vent their frustrations in life. We are all frustrated in one form or another. Maybe we didn't meet the person we wanted to meet, we didn't fall in love, we didn't find a job that we wanted, we didn't make the money or the life, you know, or you know, we're trapped in a life that we don't want, you know. But you know, we all are frustrated to whatever extent, and violence is not the answer.
Yeah. But bro, I think that's we know that's the case. Well, anyway,
yeah, but some people don't.
Yeah, but they're the guys that are talking to themselves in the dark. Reasoning ain't gonna help. Right, let's go. There's a track called Dil Se Re from the film Dil Se, which is a nice track, and we hope you enjoy it. This is Asian Sound Radio, DBK and Insa Hack, and we've got a couple of minutes to just talk about life and
life. We were talking there, and then you kind of butted in.
I'm sorry. Well, we are radio presenters, so we've got to sometimes present now and again. You were saying you were listening to another radio station, a famous one, and you were surprised at how easy their jobs are.
Well, excuse me. This was in the daytime, so you have to kind of
factor that in.
Yeah, factor that in. Is daytime radio different from nighttime radio? Well, this DJ, he was only introducing songs, saying hello for a minute and introducing a song, another wave of songs, then coming back and introducing a song, and he wasn't talking about any subject, anything pertinent. It was just kind of he's just doing a service.
Yeah,
there's nothing
or a disservice to humanity.
One day when machines take over human jobs, right?
That's one of them.
That is the one job where they don't need any effort at all.
Even this guy would fail that Alan Turing test. Such a clever joke. I'm so proud of that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, you were saying he was talking for like 10 seconds. So we're gonna listen to some great music today. This kind of thing.
That was Tiny Titch. Here's somebody else.
Excuse me.
I think that's the name of an artist. Tiny Tempo, somebody.
Tiny Titch.
Sorry, I'm showing my age there.
Yeah, Tiny. Yeah, okay, right. So it's just an interesting. When you start talking about hip hop artists, you sound like Ian Hislop on Have I Got News for You.
Look, my guys are from the 80s and 90s. NWA.
Oh yeah.
Public Enemy, Eric B and Rakim.
Yeah.
That was when lyrics meant something.
Yeah.
When they were rapping about social issues. Now it's just women on beaches or poolsides or whatever, or your booty,
Yeah.
That's
my booty, my specifically. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Bro, I mean, I'm not sure if you heard of Nicki Minaj.
I've heard of her and I've seen her on the pictures of her, so I understand why she's so popular.
Why is she so popular, bro?
Such a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's all enhanced or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in that field.
Yeah.
But she's such a beautiful woman. Yeah.
Bro, there's this funny video of this kid who gets called onto a stage to be. She's in a concert and she calls this little kid onto the stage, and the little kid's dead happy and like he's crying and he says, oh my God, this is the happiest moment of my life, and he sort of starts pretending to cry, and then she sort of pulls him in and gives him a big hug, presses him against certain parts of her body, and then you see his facial expression change, and he makes this sort of little gesture like, I did that on purpose. So funny, man. But that's something worth YouTubing. Right, should we go to our last track?
Yeah, it's time to call it a night and say goodbye. It's been wonderful and interesting, and I've really enjoyed the show tonight.
Yeah, and we'll be back on Saturday where we'll be doing trending news stories, talking about funny news stories that everyone else has been talking about that you should know about. Right, this is Altered Images with Love to Stay, and this has been DBK and Insa.